So this is interesting. So Maharaj Prthu is saying, my dear respectful ladies and gentlemen, according to the authoritative statements of Shastra, there must be supreme authority who's been able to award the respective benefits of our present activities. Otherwise, why should people be different? Why should there be persons who are unusually beautiful and powerful both in this life and the life after death? So there is some kind of system going on that we are getting awarded for something and punished for something as well. So, there's something, or somebody definitely overlooking our activities. We are being observed. So this is confirmed not only by the evidence of the Vedas, but also by the personal behavior of great personalities like Manu, Uttanpad, Dhruva, Priyavrat, and my grandfather Anga, as well as many other great personalities and ordinary living entities, exemplified by Maharaj Prahlad and Bali, all of whom are theists, believing in the existence of the Supreme Personality Godhead who carries the club. So they're explaining that who is observing is the Lord himself. So let's do a quick prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukham Kroti Vachalam Pangam Yatigri Yatir Yatkirpatam Hamadashi Gurundin Taranam Pramananda Matmam Shri Chitaneshram Hariyam Tasat Narayam Namaskritya Naram Sheva Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jay Madhuriyat Nasta Preshava Badareshu Naktam Bhagat Sevya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Neshtikhi. Sorry, a bit tongue twisters there. So, although abominable, persons like my father, Vaina, the grandson of death personified, are bewildered on the path of religion. All the great personalities like those mentioned agree that in this world, the only bestower of the benediction of religion, economic development, and sense gratification and liberation or elevation to the heavenly planets is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Maharaj Prthu is identified the Supreme himself, Lord Vishnu, here, and is glorifying him. If one does not accept the authority of the Supreme Godhead in matters of religion and morality, one must explain why two persons of the same moral standard achieve different results. So we can, endeavor to do something, but the result is not in our hands. The result, so we need endeavor, and then we need the mercy. So all our endeavors could go in waste, or our endeavors, we could get a big reward for them, a big result. So somebody's controlling that. It is generally found that even if two men have the same moral standards of ethics, honesty, and morality, their positions are still not the same. Similarly, in economic development, it is seen that if two men work very hard day and night, still the results are not the same. One person may enjoy great opulence without even working, whereas another person, although working very hard, doesn't even get 2 sufficient meals a day. Similarly, in the matter of sense gratification, sometimes one who has sufficient food is still not happy in his family affairs, or sometimes is not even married, whereas another person, even though not economically well off, has the greatest opportunity for sense gratification. So we will see that they are not the same for everyone. Therefore, it must be accepted that there is someone who determines the different standards. In conclusion, not only for liberation must one depend on the Lord, but even for ordinary necessities in this material world. Prthu Maharaj therefore indicated that in spite of having rich parents, children are sometimes not happy. Similarly, in spite of valuable medicine administered by competent physicians, sometimes a patient dies. Or in spite of having a big safe boat, sometimes a man drowns. We may thus struggle to counteract impediments offered by material nature. But our attempts cannot be successful unless we are favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the thing. So we must have the favor. We can have all the facilities, but unless we have the favor of the Lord, we cannot benefit from those facilities. By the inclination to serve the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, suffering humanity can immediately cleanse the dirt which has accumulated in their minds during innumerable births. Like the Ganges water which emanates from the toes of lotus feet of the Lord, such a process immediately cleanses the mind, and the spiritual or Krishna consciousness gradually increases. So when a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation, and he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is the conclusion, is a solution to everything. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of the threefold miseries. So Prthu Maharaj, he recognizes all the symptoms and the process itself and what works and what does not work. So as stated by the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his 6 Ashtaka instructions, by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, or by the process of hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord, one's mind is gradually cleansed of all dirt. Due to our material association since time immemorial, we have accumulated heaps of dirty things in our minds. The total effect of this takes place when a living entity identifies himself with his body and is thus entrapped by the stringent laws of material nature and put into the cycle of repeated birth and death under the false impression of bodily identification. When one is strengthened by the practicing Bhakti Yoga, his mind is cleansed of this misunderstanding and is no longer interested in material existence or in sense gratification. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that if we are selfish and we're just thinking about ourselves, thinking about our body and doing everything as dharma kam, then will we get the favor of the Lord? If you want the favor of the Lord, then you have to grab onto his lotus feet and surrender to him if you want the favor of the Lord. Otherwise, you're so completely relying on your previous karma. If it's good, then you will enjoy. If it's bad, then you will suffer. So, whereas if you take the shelter of the Lord's feet, your good and bad karma will be deleted and you're totally under the shelter of the Lord, the protection of the Lord himself. Bhakti or devotional service is characterized by Vragya and Gyan. Gyan refers to understanding that one is not his body, and Viragya means disinterest in sense gratification. So that is Bhakti. If you do Bhakti, then you are in Viragya and Gyan. These two primary principles of separation from material bondage can be realized on the strength of Bhakti Yoga. Thus, when a devotee is fixed in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Lord, he will never come back to this material existence after quitting his body, as confirmed Bhagavad-Gita by the Lord, Tyaktava Deham Puran Janma Neti Mam Eti So Arjuna. So Prthu Maharaj advises citizens, engaging your minds, your words, your bodies, and the results of your occupational duties, and being always open-minded, you should all render devotional service to the Lord, according to your abilities and the occupations in which you are situated. You should engage your service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and with full confidence and without reservation. Thus, then you will surely be successful in achieving the final objective in your lives. So that is the formula: engage your mind, words, and body, and carry out your occupational duty, your psychophysical nature in the service of the Lord to connect with the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and not contaminated by this material world. But although he is concentrated spirit soul without material variety, for the benefit of the conditioned soul, he nevertheless accepts different types of sacrifice performed with various material elements, rituals, and mantras offered to the demigods under different names, according to interest and purpose of the performers. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is all-pervading, but he is also manifested in different types of bodies, which arise from a combination of material nature, time, desires, and occupational duties. Thus, different types of consciousness develop, just as fire, which is always basically the same, blazes in different ways according to the shape and dimension of the firewood. So this is, I guess, the Lord is, or Maharaj Prthu is talking about us, that we take different bodies according to our desires. So there's two types of expansions of the Lord. One is on expansions like Narasimhadev. We have Parents' Day coming next Thursday, and also Varadev and so on. And we also God also has, or Krishna has, is also expansions that we are separated energies of the Lord. So we, in a way, we are also his expansions. But we rely on our desires and our situation, that what kind of body we will get in this life and next life. So we are totally under. We have some free will, but we are totally under the control of the Lord, and so we are allowed to desire, but that desire results in our next birth. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master and enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices, and he is the supreme spiritual master as well. All of you citizens on the surface of the globe who have a relationship with me and are worshipping him by dint of your occupational duties are bestowing your mercy upon me. Therefore, O my citizens, I thank you. So, Prthu Maharaj explained that about the Supreme Lord, that how he's the controller and the enjoyer. And now he's thanking everyone who is actually recognizing this fact, because he's saying that you're not just helping yourself by doing that, you are also helping me because you are listening to my instructions, and then I am able to do my duty properly. And if I don't do my duty properly, I will also suffer, as was explained last week. The Brahmins and the Vaishnavas are personally glorified by the characteristics, powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge, and education. By dint of all these spiritual assets, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. It is therefore advised that the princely order not exhibit its material prowess for these two communities and should avoid offending them. So I was saying Brahmins or Vaishnavas are at the highest level, more than royalty themselves. And the royalty should recognize that which they did in the old days. The Brahmins are giving a lot of respect. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ancient eternal Godhead, who is foremost amongst all great personalities, obtained the opulence of his staunch reputation, which purifies the entire universe, by worshipping the lotus feet of those Brahmins and Vaishnavas. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is everlastingly independent and who exists in everyone's heart, is very pleased with those who follow in his footsteps and engage without reservation in the service of the descendants of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. For he is always dear to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and they are always dear to him. So he's saying it's good, if you're worshiping God, if you're worshiping Vishnu, then you're at a very high level, a high stage, and the Supreme Personality Godhead really, he has a lot of respect for the people who are able to follow him without reservation. My regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. By regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from his heart and thus enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied in this world. There is no fruity activity superior to serving the Brahman class, for this can bring pleasure to the demigods for whom the many sacrifices are recommended. So although the Supreme Person of Godhead, Ananta, eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names of the different demigods, he does not take as much pleasure in eating through fire as he does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees, for then he does not leave the association of devotees. So this is very interesting. So, there's a lot of respect given to the devotees here, how important they are, that, you have a program in your house and you feed the devotees, how important that is, and how useful that is to your bhakti and to your normal life, that you are able to do that. So the devotees are given a very, very high level in every way. So one should offer foodstuffs to Brahmins and Vaishnavas, for that process is more effective than fire yajna. The vivid example of this principle in action was given by Advaita Prabhu. So here's the example. This is like a recent example. In the Kali Yuga, when Advaita Acharya, when he performed the Shraddha ceremony for his father, he first of all called Haridas Thakur and offered him food. Excuse me. It is a practice that after finishing the Shraddha ceremony, one should offer food to an elevated Brahman, but Advaita Prabhu offered food first to Haridas Thakur. So the devotees are given higher level, even the Brahman. So, who had taken his birth in Mohammedan family. Therefore, Haridas Thakur asked Advaita Prabhu why he was doing something which might jeopardize his position in Brahmin society, because they would be naturally offended that he prefers a Muslim to the Hindu Brahmins. Advaita Prabhu replied that he was feeding millions of first-class Brahmins by offering the food to Haridas Thakur. So that's how he saw him, that he was better than a million Brahmins put together. That's the standard of the devotee. He was prepared to talk with any learned Brahman on this point and prove definitely that by offering food to a pure devotee like Haridas Thakur, he was equally as blessed as he would have been by offering food to thousands of learned Brahmins. When performing sacrifices, one offers oblations to the sacrificial fire. But when such oblations are offered to Vaishnavas, they are certainly more effective. In Brahminical culture, a Brahmana's transcendental position is eternally maintained because the injunctions of the Vedas are accepted with faith, austerity, scriptural conclusions, full sense and mind control, and meditation. In this way, the real goal of life is eliminated, just as one's face is fully reflected in a clear mirror. So Srila Prabhupada explains that since it is described in the previous verse that feeding a living Brahman is more effective than offering oblations in a fire sacrifice, in this verse it is very clearly described what Brahmanism is and who is Brahman. In the age of Kali, taking advantage of the fact that by feeding a Brahman, one obtains a more effective result than by performing sacrifices, a class of men with no Brahminical qualifications claim the eating privilege known as Brahman Bhojan, simply on the basis of their birth in Brahman families. So Srila Prabhupada explains that just being a born Brahman is not enough. So a lot of people are just feeding people who are born, in a Brahman family. But unless you have the qualities that go with the Brahman, austerity, scriptural conclusions, full sense and mind control, meditation, unless they're following the process, then they cannot claim to be a Brahman. On the age of Kali, taking advantage of the fact that by feeding a Brahman, one obtains a more effective result than by performing sacrifices, a class of men with no Brahmanical qualifications claim the eating privilege as Brahman Bhojan simply on the basis of their birth in Brahman families. In order to distinguish this class of men from the real Brahman, Maharaj Prthu is giving an exact description of Brahman and Brahmanical culture. One should not take advantage of his position simply to live like a fire without any light. So if there's no light in the fire or heat, then he can't claim it to be fire, right? Because that's the characteristics of fire. It gives light and heat. And if those qualities are not present, then it's not fire. Same with the Brahman. If the Brahman doesn't have the qualities of the Brahman, if the sugar doesn't have a sweet taste, then he can't claim to be sugar. Brahman can't claim to be Brahman if he doesn't have the qualities. This is the point here. A Brahman must be fully conversant with the Vedic conclusion, which is described in Bhagavad-Gita, Vedascha save aham eva vedya. The Vedic conclusion, the ultimate understanding or Vedanta understanding is knowledge of Krishna. Actually, that is a fact because simply by understanding Krishna as he is, as described in Bhagavad-Gita, Janma Karma Chave Divyam Evam Yogeti Tatvataha. One becomes a perfect Brahman only by that knowledge. The Brahman who knows Krishna perfectly well is always in a transcendental position. This is compared in Bhagavad-Gita, Mamchayo Vayabi Charena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Saguna Samti Yetan Brahma Bhuya Kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service and who does not fall down in any circumstance at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus becomes the level of Brahman or Brahman in this case. But respectable personalities present here, I beg the blessings of all of you that I may perpetually carry on my crown the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmins and Vaishnavas until the end of my life. He who can carry such dust on his head is very soon relieved of all the reactions which arise from sinful life, and eventually he develops all good and desirable qualities. So Vaishnavas are given more Maharaj Prthu is saying that the Vaishnavas are even higher than Brahmins, and then even to be a Brahman, he is given all the qualities that they require, and Vaishnavas are even given a higher pedestal in this case. And he's saying by associating with these people, you can also get these qualities. Whoever acquires the Brahmanical qualifications, whose only wealth is good behavior, who is grateful, and who takes shelter of experienced persons, gets all the opulence of the world. I therefore wish that the Supreme Person Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahman class, with the cows, and with me. So it's very nice. Maharaj, he explained how important it is for the citizens to follow this path and not just think that they are the enjoyers of everything and live their life in their own way. If they follow the path, then they'll be guiding. They can go back home, back to Godhead, and to follow the path, they need to have association of devotees and brahmanas, and in this case, brahmanas of the highest qualities, the qualities of a devotee. So a devotee and Brahman qualities. So it's just a devotee. Brahman must be a devotee. That's the important thing, not just the label. So very nice. So I just want to thank you all for joining today. Hina Mataji, Jai Prabhu, Madhav Shamsundar Prabhu, Parthasarthi Prabhu, Praveen Mataji, Prem Prakash Prabhu, and Sarveshya Mataji. Thank you for joining. And please let me know what you understand by this or anything you like to ask. We'll start with from the top of the list from Hina Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for the class this morning. No, really, a very nice reading. Thank you. So a few notes that I made in my mind as you were reading. So a couple of things that stood out. I really like your point around how outcomes and the results of our karma is not in our hands. We simply have to we simply have to act, basically. But the outcome and the results, they're not in our control, and we shouldn't really try to strive to achieve a certain outcome. And the other verse that came to mind is the Rakhe Krishna Mare Ke, Mare Krishna Rakhe Ke. If Krishna wants to kill you, who can save you? And if Krishna wants to protect you, who can kill you? So essentially, we're taking shelter of him. We're taken care of. We don't need to worry about the outcomes on that basis, really. And also towards the end of the verse, you're acknowledging the glories of serving the devotees, and how the devotees and the Vaishnavas, which almost, you could say, are superior to Brahmins, and those with Brahminical qualities, or it's almost like it's not sufficient unless they are Vaishnavas, unless they are devotees of the Lord, essentially. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Aditi. Yeah, there's so many types of Brahmins, and like you see in Lord Chaitanya's time, Brahmanams questioning Lord Chaitanya, and they don't really recognize, there's Mayavadis as well. So, and especially people born in Brahman family, and I guess I am one of them, born in Brahman family, but we think we automatically have a right to everything. But yeah, that is not the case if you don't behave like a Brahmin. If the fire does not behave like fire, then it makes sense that it's not fire. You have to have those qualities. Only then you can qualify, not just by birth. You must have those qualities. So you need both. So you need to be a devotee, you're not just a Brahmin. So that's very interesting. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna Partha Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So many points in this particular text you read today. I was feeling like I was listening to Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 2, like Karma Yoga and the rest of the things. And some of the points which I make note of, Prabhuji, like we can make attempt, but success depends on the mercy of the Lord. So we can only do endeavor, but ultimate result is given by the Lord. And the mind, body, and activities all should be engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. And I like the example of Advaita Acharya and Haridas Thakur, how it shows that devotee is outstanding even more than a Brahmana. So I think Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, recently I read Nectar of Devotion point this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the basic principle laid out by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, if one takes a birth in the family of Brahmana, even better, like if one takes a birth in the lower family also, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is considered to be much higher than a Brahmana, a person taking in the Brahmana's family. So that point. That's all, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not about birth rights. It's about what you do with the birth. And we all, if we have a human birth, every human birth is precious, and it's important, and every human birth has the opportunity to find God and go back home. That's the thing. Just we need to be human, and your standards, which caste you belong to, and how much opulence you have, how much wealth you have, that is irrelevant when it comes to bhakti. And that's why bhakti is given so much importance, because it has nothing to do with your material standards. Bhakti is devoid of any material standards. It does not require any qualification in terms of that. So yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu. Praveen Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam to everyone. It's very nice, reading about Prthu Maharaj, and we see how, the kings who are, like, I think the word they use is Raj Rishis, how they bring, harmony and the welfare of the people, and how important it is to have leaders like that. And the importance of devotional service. So we are reminded again and again. So we have to follow the example, and take instructions from Prthu Maharaj as well. And yeah, that's it, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, absolutely right. Because we don't have leaders nowadays who are leading the government to give us this kind of advice. So we are blessed to have Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-Gita to show us the right way. Because unless somebody tells us, you can't work these things out yourself. It's just not possible to work these. You can speculate and try and work out with your own mundane mind and senses and intelligence, but you'll never work it out. It has to come from higher authorities, which comes straight, from Krishna. Is all this disciplic succession, all this information in the Shastras. We have to consult the Shastras to get the right advice. We cannot work it out from our little mind. And a lot of people try to work things out from their mind, and you can see the result. They have their own pseudo religions and conceptions of what religion's all about. It's really approaching the right people. And if the government is not providing, then we have to consult the Shastras for that. Thank you, Andrej. Hare Krishna, Prem Prakash Prabhu. Prabhu, are you able to unmute? Thank you.
Hare Krishna, I didn't apologies for it. I was driving around the school, so I didn't actually make a lot of it. But just by the grace of Guru Maharaj, I heard the conversation between her conversation for the Acharan of Advaita Acharya for Haridas Thakurji, and it was so wonderful that Advaita Acharya is not different from Mahavishnu. And obviously Mansadasha basically, and then he is actually exemplifying the qualities of Vaishnavas, and Haridas Thakur is not different from Lord Brahma himself basically, and he's there. Even though Lord Brahma is controlling many of the things in this universe and creating the things, but this is such a esoteric pastime that no one else is, even the Brahmanas, having the conclusion, knowing the conclusion of the scriptures, practicing the scriptures, and all those wonderful things, basically submissive, austerity, and the qualities you mentioned, they wouldn't be able to figure out such a esoteric pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in which Lord Brahma becomes Vaishnava himself, and then Lord Vishnu himself actually trying to exemplify the Acharan of the Vaishnavas through Haridas Thakur. There's an example basically when it was happening. So what happened is like Advaita Acharya invited Haridas Thakur for offering, and what he wanted to do, he wanted to offer Haridas Thakur first before the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas were not very happy for that. So he looked at Haridas Thakur, Advaita Acharya, and then see that, look, they don't appreciate what is on the plate, or what is there basically, the qualities of Vaishnava. So what Haridas Thakur, because Lord Brahma is now the supreme personality, not supreme personality, but the supreme creator in this universe, basically the original living entity, and he has many powers and mystic powers as well. So what he did is that he asked Agni Dev for the solution. So in the Brahmana's house, basically, Agni didn't light up. So what was happening is that even they would like to offer bhoga or something, the Agni wouldn't light up. And Advaita Acharya has invited Brahmanas. Brahmana decided not to go to Advaita Acharya because of the Acharan Advaita Acharya is doing for the Haridas Thakur. And then they had left with no other option. Because they couldn't cook at their home, so they had to go to Lord Advaita Acharya for actually honoring Prasadam. And when they went there, they saw a very effulgent personality sitting there. And the effulgence was such a huge effulgence, such a big effulgence, that they were not even able to look at the personality and recognize them. And consulting themselves, they decided that this personality is the best personality. The Prasadam should be offered first. and they agreed to it, and the prasadam was offered. And after the prasadam was offered, Lord Brahma, sorry, when then they were able to see the effulgence, who is sitting behind the effulgence, and there Haridas Thakur was sitting there. So it is also said that they are different pastime, not just Lord plays, but to satisfy the lordships. Also, the devotees of the lordships plays their pastime to bring everyone closer to the conclusion that Lord wants everyone to understand. So this is from this example we understand that how Haridas Thakur is himself exemplifying the Acharan of Vaishnava. It's very nice to be having all the knowledge for a person, only if he's not proud of it and he's ready to give up every bit and pieces of knowledge for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as the gopis did. And that is being exemplified by Haridas Thakur as well. So that's how the entire Leela is there, and I'm with very little intelligence. I try to narrate what I heard from my understanding. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, very sweet pastime and a very good comparison and example for all of us. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
She's well enough. She wasn't very well.
Mataji, can't hear you.
She wasn't very well even last week.
Mataji, you want to share anything? Can't hear you at the moment.
I don't think she realized.
It's unmuted, but I don't know.
Mataji has unmuted, but
Yeah, yeah.
She wasn't very well, so I don't know if Mataji's
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
something.
Okay. I would like to have heard from Mataji, but it doesn't matter. Mataji, if you're not able to, I don't know. You have unmuted, but no, we can't hear you. Maybe, I don't know, could be a
Maybe the
problem.
volume is off on her. Is on.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, is it me you asking?
Yeah, yes, Mataji, I am, yes.
Oh, I didn't hear properly, sorry. You know, my hearing is not so good.
Yeah, because I seen that you unmute, but yeah, I thought maybe.
Sorry about it. Hare Krishna, everybody. And we are living in Kali Yuga, Dasa Yuga. And the question was asked by, I can't remember who, to Sukdev Goswami, that why didn't Raja Parikshit killed Kali Yuga? He had opportunity, but he let him go. Then Sukdev Goswami replied that in Kali Yuga there's two good qualities. First quality is, if you just take Harinam, jap Harinam, you can go back to Godhead. And then the second quality is, if somebody wants to do anything bad, like thinking I'm gonna kill somebody, it's not sinful unless you do it. Then it's effective. But by thinking bad things, it doesn't affect. But on the other hand, if you think something good and you don't do it, but it is effective, like sometimes you do puja, then you say you can do mansik puja, then it is effective. There's two qualities. And then the Swami said that that's why he let Kali Yuga live, so people can benefit of out of it. And just like Maharaj Prthu, he advises instructed his citizens to do devotional service and how the Brahmanas' duties are or Kshatriya's duties are. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he followed the same path and he instructed to us and to Acharyas been following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction to take shelter of the holy name. There's no difference between the Krishna and holy name, and to take shelter of the holy name and get out of this material world and go to back to Godhead. And that's the instruction we should follow. And the position of the mentioned about Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas. The position of the Vaishnavas are above Brahmanas, because Vaishnavas means devotees of Lord Vishnu is Vaishnavas. And then Brahmanas, sometimes not all the Brahmanas are Vaishnavas. They worship Lord Vishnu. Some of them, they worship demigods or Lord Shiva or some. So that's why the position of the Vaishnavas is higher, because the Supreme Personality God is higher than all the gods. The gods, sometimes they mention Lord Shiva's God. He's higher, he's a supreme. So the Vaishnavas are supreme as well, because they're devotees of Lord Vishnu. So in Kali Yuga, so we should take the shelter of holy name if we want, because this Kali Yuga is lot of faults. We are lazy, we can't do things, and we are greedy, and we are we envious of people. So all these, to get rid of all these faults, we have to take shelter of holy name. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, absolutely right. And they say devotee already has the conclusion of the Vedas, because conclusion of the Vedas is that you recognize Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu as a supreme personality of Godhead. So if you're doing that, then you already have the conclusion of the Vedas. So, that's what more does a Brahman know? If the devotee is that standard, then he's higher than an ordinary Brahman. So thank you so much, Mataji. Praveen Mataji, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just got a quick question, Prabhuji. Is that the main difference between a Vaishnava and a Brahmana, that Vaishnavas worship the Supreme Lord and Brahmanas don't? Is
Yeah,
that the only difference?
yeah. As Sureshi Mataji is saying, that you get Brahmanas in temples, right? Mata the Mandir, Shiv Mandir, pujaris. They could be Brahmins. So all Brahmins don't necessarily recognize Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu as the supreme personality Godhead. They worship demigods as well, or they might be Mayavadi Brahmins as well. So just because they have taken birth in a Brahman family, and they might not, they might not be practicing anything at all, or they might be practicing Mayavad, or they might be practicing demigod worship. So but these are not the high stages on the ladder. The high stage is bhakti to the supreme personality Godhead, which is Lord Krishna. That's the point, that they have surpassed. They have gone past those Brahmins. A devotee has gone past the Brahman level.
Yeah, but they don't even have. Sorry, Mataji.
I have noticed. I mean, if you call any, they were what you call it, pandit, but they are said they Brahmanas. When they come to your house, have you seen anybody praying to Krishna? They all pray to this. There's five devas. So they are Brahmanas, but they don't worship Krishna. They do all this karam kand. Anyway, I've never seen anybody except Hare Krishna Brahmins. They worship, they do puja like Lord Krishna's puja. But if somebody dies or anything, you want to do any puja, they come and do worship demigods. All the Brahmanas. That's what I said. But the Brahmanas from Hare Krishna ISKCON is that different. They always worship Lord Krishna. the circumstances. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. No, that's what I'm thinking, because for me, the true Brahmanas are the Vaishnavas, really, because other Brahmanas, like we're saying in the temples, they like, most of them, they eat meat and onion, garlic, everything, or even drink. So we can't really, think they are Brahmanas, but they still call themselves, they're Brahmins.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So but in ISKCON, it is same, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas then, because you need to have all the Vaishnav qualities or Brahminical qualities, really, to be called.
Yeah. In this, I mean, anybody can become a Brahman. When you have reached that level that you are doing, well, you are initiated, first initiation, and then if you if the temple authorities feel that you are doing uninterrupted bhakti with determination, which Krishna wants. That's what Krishna asked for, uninterrupted bhakti with determination. And they think this, okay, we can initiate, give a second initiation for Brahman, because then you are able to serve the deities directly, and you can cook for the deities. That's the system that is followed in ISKCON.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you. Haribol.
Yeah, it's just that little bit. Otherwise, every devotee is capable of going back home. It's not that somebody gets initiated by as a Brahman, you go back home. It's not that. It's just for serving the deities. They're given Brahman initiation. You want to say something?
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to add that Kali Yuga, despite all its shortcomings and faults, is regarded as one of the best yugas, that even the Devatas, they want to come and take birth in this Kali Yugas, because only in Kali Yuga it's possible to go back to Godhead. In even the Devatas, they know that their standard is going to not last forever. They have to come back and start all over again, just like us. So that is the beauty of this Kali Yuga. So we shouldn't think that we are in a bad situation or in a bad yuga. This is one of the yugas where you can say that you go to a shop and you have the best bargains available. So we have to make use of all the, despite all the shortcomings of this yuga, we have to make best of it and have a fast track situation. All circumstances are given that we can have a quick journey back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I mean, as we were reading one of the previous weeks, that Krishna becomes more merciful as in the yugas. Now in the Kali Yuga, he's most merciful. I mean, what more can we ask the Lord Chaitanya, the most merciful Lord incarnation that came. So Krishna becomes more and more, because he knows we are more and more fallen throughout the yugas, and then he's more merciful to the people in the Kali Yuga. He's more helpful to them. He's more accessible to us in the Kali Yuga, because of the symptoms that we have. We don't have very long lives. We don't, our minds, intelligence have become weaker, memories become weaker, and there is a lot of temptation around us, all these things. So Krishna becomes more tolerant and more merciful to us, and makes our journey that little bit easier. As we all know that you're meditating for for thousands of years, and doing big yajnas in the previous yugas. There's so many elaborate things you have to do in the Kali Yuga. Just chant the holy name of the Lord and do some devotional service of others, prashadam, and do some temple service like that. You can go back home in the Kali Yuga. So the standards, if our standards have dropped, then the standard required has also dropped as well. So it's in our favor. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we have maybe just time for one round. So yeah, let's do that. Sarveshi Mataji, are you able to do round today? Chant around?
Yes, I try. My throat is not too good today. So if somebody can else do it for me.
Okay, sure. Parvi Mataji, like to do the round?
Okay, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta